The air in the village square felt as though it were being squeezed by invisible, heavy hands. Okeke stood paralyzed, the weight of 1,000 accusing eyes pinning him to the spot like a moth to a board. For months, he had walked through the village with his head held high, intoxicated by the belief that his overflowing barns were a shield that protected him from the scrutiny of both men and spirits. He had equated his wealth with divine approval, convincing himself that he was a man of destiny who was simply too important to be bound by the same rules as the common folk. But now, under the burning, translucent gaze of the chief priest, that shield of pride had turned into a heavy yoke of lead that threatened to crush his very soul. "Speak, Okeke!" the chief thundered again, his voice cracking like a whip across the silent square. "The oracle does not throw words to the wind. She has named the sin and she has pointed the finger. Do you deny that you stood before the great Iroko in the dead of night and pledged half of your soul's labor to the land? Do you deny that when the time for payment came, you gave the goddess the shriveled rot while you kept the golden grain for yourself? Look around you, Okeke. Look at the faces of the people you call your brothers and sisters." Okeke opened his mouth to lie, to weave a story of misunderstood intentions, or to claim that the oracle's priest had misheard the spirits. But as he tried to speak, the words died in his throat like dry ash. He looked down at his hands, and to his absolute horror, he saw that the grey blight, the very ashen powder that was killing the village, was beginning to manifest on his own body. A fine, ghostly layer of grey dust was coating his expensive silk robes, and his fingernails were turning the color of charcoal. The crowd saw it too. A collective gasp of pure terror and mounting rage rippled through the square as they witnessed the divine mark of a thief appearing on his skin. I was afraid of returning to the hunger," Okeke finally cried out, his voice breaking into a pathetic, high-pitched wail that carried no dignity. "The land had been a desert to me for so many years. I only wanted to ensure that my children would never have to beg again. I didn't think it would hurt the rest of you. I thought the gods were generous and wouldn't miss a few baskets of grain. I meant to give more later. I truly did." "You thought the gods were fools you could haggle with like a merchant in a market," Namdi, the man who had buried his youngest son only a week prior, screamed as he lunged forward. He was held back by the trembling arms of two other men, but his eyes were filled with a murderous light that promised no mercy. "You ate the life force of this entire village to build a wall of yams around your own house. You sat in your compound drinking fine wine while we boiled leather and bitter roots just to keep our hearts beating. Every tuber in your barn is a drop of blood from our children." The anger of the village was no longer a murmur or a whisper. It was a physical, terrifying force that vibrated in the air. Young men reached for their machetes, their knuckles turning white with the desperate desire for justice. They saw Okeke no longer as a neighbor or a friend, but as a parasite that had gorged itself on the vitality of the community while they withered away. Even the elders, usually the voices of restraint and peace, looked away from him, their faces hardened into masks of unyielding stone. "Blood will not heal the soil, nor will the rain bring it," Eziani interjected, his voice cool and steady despite the mounting chaos. He stepped between the mob and the trembling Okeke. "The time for your bargaining is over. The time for your lies has ended. You will lead us to your compound right now. You will open every iron lock and you will show us every hidden basket of grain and oil. The goddess has demanded her portion and she will take the interest of your pride along with it."